Why, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield. And today, my friends, we're going to have another lore video, and we're going to tackle a fun subject today. We're going to talk about the differences between Tolkien's orcs and other fantasy orcs. And are Tolkien's orcs inherently evil? Are they just horrible creatures to the core? Or do they have some good, like other orcs? Now, to challenge this, I have some premises and arguments in the good sense, as in how I'm going to bring it forth, the information to you in a certain way that'll make sense, and you can follow my pattern of thought. Again, feel free to leave comments, simple ones. I enjoy hearing what other people have ideas, or different adjustments on ideas, but we're going to talk about from my knowledge of Tolkien's lore, and also from my knowledge of other franchises. Definitely, we're going to talk about comparisons to World of Warcraft and the Blizzard orc type of character and race, and also compared to like a D&D orc. Now, many will say that and know that a lot of the inspiration for a reason we have World of Warcraft, Blizzard kind of stories, and also D&D stuff is really because Tolkien was the father of fantasy. But they took a little twist, and I'll explain those twists right now and why orcs are very different in the two worlds. And now, from that, I'm going to bring up a conversation I had with someone on my YouTube channel who was making a sarcastic joke, but that some people actually do think, I would like to point out, because he told me, he's like, I was just being sarcastic. I was like, all right, sounds good. So I would like to use this, though, because it'd be a very good beginner. I'm only going to use part of what he said here, and I'm going to explain this and use it as my premise of what we're going to first break down in this video. All right. Well, if you do like this, don't forget to like and subscribe as well. But he has told us, this person said to me, and again, this was sarcasm on his part, so you know, but some people probably do think this. He says, if we are going to be honest, this is his quote, right? Tolkien's world, and I'm taking this a little bit out of the whole thing he put, okay? Just so you know. I'm taking out a point for our story here, for our arguments in a good way. He said, Tolkien's works are extremely, and I'm going to use this word, Eva, hopefully YouTube doesn't attack me, so don't forget to like and subscribe to support me, but are extremely racist. All right, you got it. I'm going to split up the word a little for YouTube. Within the context of the world he created, the races of elves, dwarves, orcs, humans of various types, etc. The orc race is presented as a lesser being, never given a fair shake. Tolkien never takes the time to explore how the orcs may have been misunderstood, or how the way the elves, humans, and dwarves have treated them, perhaps unfairly, for thousands of years. Okay, that's only part of what he said. Again, he did clarify that is sarcasm, okay? But if someone did have an argument like that, what is the differences? Why in other fantasy for things like World of Warcraft or D&D, why orcs are more, they're just basically another race. Some people like them, some people don't. They're some of them can be good, some of them can be bad. What's the difference? Are orcs only evil in Lord of the Rings? Well, this is a hard one. We're going to break it down here now. So, here's what I replied to him, and then we're going to break this down as well. I said, I disagree. I do not think that Tolkien's works are racist in any way, okay? So it's very clear. The reason why, you have to understand the context, right, of Tolkien's works. Orcs are corrupted elves. They are now a different race, but they came from the race of elves in Tolkien's works. In other works, they're not. So there's already a huge comparison of the two, okay? So that's a big one right there. And let's pop up my little thing here. All right, so we have some Tolkien orcs here from the Peter Jackson adaptations, of course, but they're very, very gruff, evil-looking creatures, right? Again, remember, they are corrupted. They are evil. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. And could there be ones that would work with you? Yes, there could be. But usually it's for their own greedy gain. And the one thing, I'll read this and then you'll follow my point. I really wrote this well, so I'm going to just read it so I don't lose my train of thought for you guys. I said, if you understand the context, orcs in Tolkien's world are very different from, let's say, World of Warcraft orcs. In World of Warcraft, they focus hard on showing orcs at basically a net neutral race with war tendencies. So they're a little bit warring, but they can be good or bad, right? And that's cool. I like that they did in World of Warcraft and D&D, right? But in Tolkien's world, orcs are not their own race. They are a corrupted version of elves by one of the most evil beings in the universe, right? Whose goal this is Morgoth we're speaking of, right? Whose goal was to make a corruption that would attack a corrupted race that would attack all and fight all normal races of Middle-earth, hence why orcs are constantly attacking. So then I make a joke back and say orcs and goblins in Tolkien's works would not hesitate to kill the other races, right? As we know, we see that's why they're such a threat all the time, right? They'll just kill you on the spot, right? Because they hate it, because you know, that's their design by Morgoth, I put. I guess you could say orcs are being the racist to others, right? Because they're constantly looking to kill anyone that isn't an orc, and they kill each other, right? In Middle-earth lore of orcs, right? As we know. But then, all right, but you could also feel a little bad for them, in a sense, because that was Morgoth's design for them. Morgoth gave them really no choice but to hate everything else, right? He designed them, he corrupted them, he twisted their very being as a made-up race that he manipulated off elves, right? My point, all right, here's the end of my little message here, to have this argument that is races to being orcs, right, is false within context of Tolkien's world. So I disagree. I do not think there is anything going on there where people are being mean to orcs in Tolkien's world. Really, it's a flip coin, right? The orcs are the ones being mean to everyone else, but that doesn't matter. The reason being is that Morgoth, right? Now, on a flip side, he corrupted them, he designed them to be evil, right? He designed them to attack and hurt all of the other races of Middle-earth. So that's something we have to realize in context of why you don't see really good these guys from Middle-earth in the world of Tolkien, right? That's my premise there, okay? So Morgoth designed them to be evil. You can have a little bit of pity on the orcs that they were corrupted creatures and now they have no choice but to really be evil because they really don't have the neutral free will kind of thing that other races have. They're really, their innermost being is just hate and evil, right? Now, you do find occasional stories in The Lord of the Rings and in some adaptations to video games where a character will work with someone, right? And doesn't seem quite as evil as it could be. For example, let's take the spin-off of Shadows of Mordor, right? Where Ratbag, right, helps him. But it's for his own gain. He wants power in the orc hierarchy. He'd turn on him real quick. You can see that by the character, right? The only reason he's working with him because he realizes he has ability, right, that he can help him kill the other orc leaders and take over power, right? If you've played that game. It's a little background for you. Now, on the flip side, I wrote here, such as World of Warcraft, Blizzard, Orcs, and D&D, which we already talked about, were not made by an evil god or corrupted, right, by Morgoth. They were just there, created, however, just like humans were, just like elves and dwarves in D&D and in Warcraft, right? It's a separate thing. That's where the context happens. In Tolkien's lore, orcs were designed to be evil killing machines, right? To eliminate the other good races that LOTR and the other gods made, right? That was the goal of the orcs, right, by Morgoth. He wanted to be his warrior army of monstrous horrors, basically. So, but Warcraft and D&D, as I put here, were not made by an evil god. They are all their very own race. So they're their own thing, right? They also seem to have mindsets of net neutral, like humans, so they can be good or evil in World of Warcraft and in D&D. Now, again, remember, there's a chance maybe to an extent that an orc in World of Warcraft could be somewhat good, but their tendencies are so for evil that they would the majority of orcs in Lord of the Rings would not hesitate to kill you and then eat you. Okay, they are vicious, horrible creatures. That's why they're so despised by all the races in Tolkien's works, because they are literally all they've ever done is just attack and kill from the very beginning of their creation, right? So that's why. That's the premise there that I want to talk about. So what are the differences between orcs of Tolkien's works and orcs of other fantasy series like Blizzard or D&D, which again got inspiration from Tolkien's works, but did a slightly different turn on orcs, right? Made them more of their own individual race, not a corrupted race that was pulled off another race, right? Like in Tolkien's works. So the big differences there are, at heart, I put right here, at heart, orcs are rather evil in Tolkien's works. They have evil. They don't have a net neutral conscience as much of, oh, I shouldn't do this. You know what I mean? Their immediate instinct is just kill anything that isn't an orc, and they kill each other. Where in let's say you watch World of Warcraft or any of the stories, yes, the orcs are a little intense, they're a little mean, they can be violent. Let's go through here. So for example, here's this character, right? If you watch the Warcraft movie, which I actually thoroughly enjoyed, some people didn't, but I enjoyed it. This orc basically gets a mutual friendship with that human, and they work together to help stop a war that his other orc tribes are trying to cause through a corruption of this other demon, right? So again, it's more of, you see the differences in every race, that there are good ones and bad ones, which, by the way, is the norm in our world, right? The norm is for humans is there's good ones and bad ones in every place you go, right? So World of Warcraft does it more like where orcs, instead of being almost a demon spawn, which is kind of like how Tolkien does it, where they're very evil and they really don't have good and evil ones. In World of Warcraft, they have good ones and evil ones, right? The two characters. So that is the big differences between the two from what I've studied of both the lores off the top of my head. Again, I just wanted to make this a short talking lore video, so you do enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And then, of course, we have our other evil orcs, like Gothmog, who is very evil. I mean, look what they... he's a vicious, cruel leader. Now, again, this does show that they have intelligence still. They're very intelligent, the orcs, still in Tolkien's work. But that's what makes them so terrifying, right? Because if they have good leadership, they are quite evil and quite deceptive, which is why you see a lot of times the goblins of the Misty Mountains, right? You see a lot of times like the king of the goblins, right? If there's a really good leadership among them, they're a threat. But if there's not a really good leader at that time, they're just kind of just here and there causing little raids, they're not really a big issue. But when they get leadership, they're really scary. And usually, how do they hold leadership? It's through fear. It's not through charisma, right? Like maybe a human or a dwarf or an elf would do, or a hobbit. It's more of fear and intimidation, and if you don't follow me, I will kill you and eat you, is what the usually higher up goblins or orcs do, right? And again, I have a video on that too a little bit, but orcs and goblins in Tolkien's world are kind of more similar, right? Where in other fantasies, they're very split. They're completely different races. But in Tolkien's world, there is differences between orcs and goblins, but they're also kind of the same thing according to Tolkien. So yeah, they're all kind of spawns of evil. They're just like multiple morphing versions of it, kind of thing. So then, here's another shot of a goblin from Lord of the Rings. A good shot, iconic shot you probably all remember. Again, they're very, very evil. And then we have a shot now of the Rings of Power series that at the time of this video is coming out very soon. But that's really where it comes down to. What is Ring of Power gonna do? Are they gonna keep to that kind of stuff, right? With orcs really being just evil, or are they going to try to bring in the fact and morph it more like to the fantasy realm of D&D, where orcs are sometimes good, right? I really hope they don't do that, in my own opinion. I think that Tolkien has a very, very baseline of what he's trying to show between the orcs and all the other races in his world. Orcs are not another just race of net neutral, where they have, pick good or evil choices. They are at heart evil, corrupted creatures, right? They're very, very evil. So that is the point of that one. And then we have the next one here. There's another shot of another one of the orcs. It's a cool shot. I like how evil they look. I like the real it's not CGI. I like that. I think they're gonna do a good job with that. Hopefully. All right, here's another shot again of an orc from World of Warcraft. Again, World of Warcraft orcs are very big compared. There's another comparison between World of Warcraft orcs and orcs in Lord of the Rings. Orcs in Lord of the Rings, you do get big ones occasionally. They grow really big, or really big goblins kind of thing, but the race are, you know, 3 times the size of a man in World of Warcraft, right? D&D, orcs are just slightly bigger usually than humans. It's not a huge difference. They're just usually way more naturally buff and stuff, right? The comparison's there. Again, this is the one guy from the movie. I actually really like this character because it's very interesting to see the good side of orcs in World of Warcraft, right? He's a very honorable warrior, and he doesn't want to just slaughter humans like some of his other groups are doing. So that's kind of cool. I do like those differences. I enjoy that in another fantasy series. But again, you have to realize the context of Tolkien's world. It'd be fun to imagine that there are some orcs in Tolkien's world that are, you know, somewhat good and just want to be on their own and make their own town somewhere. That's really just not the case with Tolkien's world. It's pretty obvious how Tolkien lays it down that they are corrupted by Morgoth, and Morgoth designed them to be evil, which again, you can have some pity on the orcs in the way that Morgoth made them kind of evil, but now at the same point, they're evil. They're doing those evil acts, so it is them doing it. So, but that's an interesting another thought. Do the orcs of Tolkien's world have free will compared to other races with choices? I mean, I would assume yes to an extent, but if you really look at it, they are so corrupted that just at heart, evil acts are normal to them. Horrible, brutal acts are fine to orcs in Tolkien's world, right? So that's what I would say on that. So then here's another shot of one of the orcs from World of Warcraft, right? Again, very big, really huge compared to a lot of orcs in, like, I mean, if Azog stood next to him, he'd almost be his height probably, you know, from the Hobbit version. Big Gundabad orc, but still it's gonna be he's probably a little buffer, a little bigger. And again, that's just a fantasy difference, different fantasy worlds, right? This is fantasy building. All right, now we got a shot here of a D&D characters. This is an orc working with a human. Again, to comparison, another fantasy realm, D&D. D&D really is very all races are pretty much net neutral. Most of the generic races are like net neutral. You choose whether they're really evil or whether they're really good, right? You could technically have a really good orc in D&D, right? Who's like really honorable, and he's basically just a human inside an orc, as in we think a human paladin or something, right? So you could do that, right, in D&D, but that's because D&D is a world building game. You choose how to build your own world. So that's why they had that where, you know, again, if you go through the lore of D&D, orcs are kind of more similar to World of Warcraft, where they're kind of like, there's some that are really evil, some that are really rather decent folk. They're usually just more warring. Again, that's something that kind of passes through Tolkien's into those franchises, right? Is that they're still warring, right? Because I mean, orcs, and you can't deny orcs and Lord of the Rings and the Tolkien's World of Middle Earth are very warring, right? But again, that's because they hate everyone, right? They just hate everything because they're evil orcs. So here's another shot. Again, this is just someone's art. I don't know, this is from what it's D&D, Warcraft, what someone's thought is, but it's just an orc who's sad because it looks like his friend was slain that was a human, and he's crying. Again, this is more of a D&D side of it, right? And this is what I think people have troubles people get confused in their mind. They take the ideas and premises of D&D and you know, World of Warcraft, which are so ingrained in our social pop culture right now, that they forget when they go back to Lord of the Rings that orcs are not those same kind of race that are like more, you know, they can be lovable and good and kind and pick good choices. They don't in Lord of the Rings. So that is the differences there that are very, very important to realize, right? Again, we're kind of covering the same things at this point, so we'll move on. There's another shot, again, D&D orc working with some rogue or something, right, from this D&D series. Another D&D orc, right, just some other shots. D&D orc, yeah. There it is, and another D&D orc. So anyway, what do you guys think on this subject? Please leave your comments. Again, this is something that I really wanted to talk about for a while, but then that person made that sarcastic comment, which he did say to me. A disclaimer that he said that was a sarcastic comment. I was just being silly. He agreed with what I thought with this. But again, you don't have to agree with me. You guys, please leave your comments. What do you think about orcs? Orcs in World of Warcraft and D&D versus orcs in Tolkien's works. Again, I know Tolkien's works was he kind of took a lot of the mythologies of the world and his own wonderful creations and brought them back to us in the last 100 years, right? Which is why all our fantasy has exploded thanks to Tolkien. He's the father of fantasy, pretty much. I mean, that's a saying that's been around for a long time, but I believe very, very true. And yeah. Anyway, that was fun. We did that in under 20 minutes. So what did you guys think? Did you enjoy that little talk? Please do like and subscribe if I did earn it. And if you did like it, leave comments and maybe we'll do some other content. Give me some ideas. What other lore videos would you love me to go over and talk over? Because I love talking about this stuff. So it just matters if you guys really enjoy it too. That's really what matters. And again, I did a lot of planning for this video, thinking ahead, my writing of that thing, that kind of stuff, because I don't want to just be rambling. I want to have real good hard points for you. So to finish up, one last thing. The main point I'm trying to make is, what are the differences between the orcs of Middle Earth and the orcs of other fantasy series? And are there any good orcs in Tolkien's works, right? Those are the big questions. That'll probably be something about the title of this video, because I don't like clickbait. I want the title to make sense with what we're talking about. So anyway, you guys, hope that you enjoyed. Thank you to my wonderful Patreons here for your support. Subscribe button will be right here, sitting right here somewhere. Next episode will be up there in the top left, and over the picture there we'll have the my main content, a LOTR tale. So you guys have a great day in Middle Earth. I really had fun making this video, and thanks for joining me. Your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield. See you in the next episode of Voice of the Rings. Baruch Kazad Kuzad I Menu.